Beginning with a comfortable seated position. Do you mind sending a little message to Chris just to see if he's...
I don't have his number.
Oh, we don't have his email. Okay, well, that's all right.
Oh, I might be able to find it. You forwarded me stuff from him.
Okay. I can do it. It's okay. If he sent you a message, maybe he's saying, hey, I can't get on or something
He
like that.
sent me a couple this morning. He forwarded me, but I haven't had a chance to listen because of work.
But he hasn't sent... I guess he couldn't send you a message, so oh well. It's just surprising that there's nobody else here. Beginning in a comfortable seated posture. Make sure the weight rests in front of the sitting bones here. Your back is soft and relaxed. Your neck is released. Your head is softened upward. Your shoulders are released. Your chest is relaxed. Your shoulder blades soften down your back. Your breath is easy. And just a few minutes of quiet releasing. Every time you exhale, soften through the mouth and allow your whole body to release. Every time you inhale, allowing a sense of stillness to develop in your posture, in your mind. So with every breath, a bit more relaxed than you were before. Deeper and deeper into relaxation. Allowing your mind to become quiet. If you become distracted, simply release that distraction. Become less interested in it. And allow your awareness to fall back into the present moment. Letting your emotions become quiet and soft. Your whole body letting go. Sure you don't want the trade?
Yes.
Okay. Leaving the rest of the day behind. And then when you're ready, make sure you get your hands nice and warm. Palms growing warm. Fresh chi flowing into your hands. If you need to, you can run your hands under warm water or hold a nice cup of tea. But you don't want to put cold hands on your body. And then, simple resting of your hands on top of your head, gentle circles. Looks like Chris joined us.
Yay, hi Chris.
Glad you made it. We thought you were skipping out on us. Keeping your shoulders soft, simply circling your palms gently on the top of your head, moving the skin around, connecting with and opening the point on the crown of the head. Both directions. Giving your arms a moment of rest, especially if you carry shoulder tension or your arms are feeling weak. Always take a moment to allow things to feel soft in between. And then using your fingernails, softening your scalp from your eyebrows to the back of your head. And then rubbing the back of your hand, or the hand against the back of your head, with your thumb along the line at the base of the skull. Not pushing too hard, but generating a sense of warmth, allowing that sense of movement and liveliness to penetrate into that space just beneath the level of the skin, as well as allowing that softness to accumulate in your hands. And then rubbing your palm against the side and the back of your neck, emphasizing that point at the base of cervical vertebra 7, that big bone at the base of your neck. But do warm the entire area. And by the way, to make up for missing class yesterday, for my wonderful practice session that went all the way until the evening with my instructor, I had some requests to make a video that was an introduction to this set, a description for people who have never done it before, and to make it available. So I did that. I made it. Now I just have to go through the process of uploading it, and it takes forever to do that. And then YouTube processes it, and then I can publish it. And so I have yesterday's class, but it'll probably come up tonight. That's how it goes. That way you can send it to friends of yours that have not yet done this set as a way to teach them how to do it. And then resting your palms on top of your eyes. Warmth of the hands soaking into the face, especially softening that space around your eyes, behind your eyes. Ironing off to the sides 3 times. And then using your fingertips to soften those points alongside the nose.
Chris says, thank you. That will really help people who are brand new to it.
Oh, good. And then softening up and down. I'm now creating and uploading hours of videos every single day. And so I have to wait for YouTube to finish and to let me post things. And then warming and softening around the orbit of the eye. Moving at a level of pressure and a speed that soothes and softens the area, not compresses or tightens it. Both directions. And then softening that space between your eyebrows, at the end of the eyebrows, relieving that tendency toward tension we have gripping at the top of the nose, between the eyes. And then softening through and off the eyebrows to the sides. Pushing just hard enough to sink below the level of the skin, but not so hard that you compress the blood vessels against the bone. Easing that space on the side of your head. Gentle circles in both directions, as though you're melting the tissue just beneath the skin, softening it like butter, or as though you're warming up cold taffy, allowing it to smooth out, gently open. And then releasing the jaw. Soft and easy. Again, keep your back straight, your shoulders relaxed. Let your body fall into a comfortable position. And then that space just in front of the ear. Circling in both directions. I say 36 times, but it's really enough to have that sense of warmth and movement. Penetrate into that point and open it, softening the joint slightly behind it, releasing the tissue in the area. These are all places where the tissue likes to bind, and so we're just easing it open with loving touch. And then we'll move through a series of warming and softening practices for the ears. I'll give the advice in advance because you won't be able to hear me. The first one, we are going to soften from that line at the jaw to the ear that we just worked. You can allow one finger to move behind the ear and around the ear to soften and warm that whole space back here, as well as just in front. And then we'll do the same, but over the ear itself. Have that sense of warmth penetrate into the ears. And then you can massage the ears from the inside along the outside with your fingertips until it grows nice and warm. Then compressing the ears. I'll do it 18 times, not so hard that it's uncomfortable, just enough to feel a pressure wave. And on the last compression, tap your fingers against the back of your head. Softening the sides of the neck. Gently easing open these tissues here.
So we have a question related to the neck. Any tips on softening and keeping soft the pesky SCM muscles?
So the SCM, the sternocleidomastoid muscles, that's this collection here. Sternal because it connects down here. Cleidal because it connects to the clavicle. And mastoid because it connects up here toward the jaw and the base of the head. This line here. And it grips for a number of reasons. Emotional tension, of course, because of posture. If we're sitting in a way that our body's forced to strain, if we're trying to pull our chest up because we don't know how to breathe with our diaphragm and to soften our abdomen, then we have to create a vacuum in our chest by lifting this way, or we pull down on our head. All of these different qualities, everything pulls together. And so softening our posture, allowing our head to release upward, quieting our mind, slowing our breath, allowing some movement to begin occurring through our waist with the breath so that we don't have to pull our chest up, making sure that we are in a proper posture so that our head and neck have the chance to relax in the first place. All of these are really important, but some of it is just a long-term habit of tension. And so something like this begins to ease that open. It's not something like any part of our body or mind that can be forced to release. We have to learn to release, coax it open. It's not as though it's separate parts of the body. It's us. And we have to learn how to release us. And then all the way down. All this place where we connect down here also has to be softened. Through this gentle, loving touch, nothing that is irritating or creates pressure in the body, just gently opening, but also loving touch with our mind, softening our heart, our breath, giving ourselves the chance to have a moment of peace, not trying to do anything or fix anything. This unconditional friendliness is so powerful for healing. Closing, letting everything settle through. Just a few breaths of meditation. Let your mind be still. Your breath be comfortable. Everything releases. And certainly Chris as well for softening these places. All of those neck releasing practices that we were working on before can help. And for those of you watching, on the channel, there's a series of neck releasing practices that you can follow, but do it separately than this set. And the same with deep massage or anything else. You want to allow this set to settle into your body, to soften open this layer. before you start pushing and pulling strongly or massaging deeply on things, because the two kinds of information can conflict a little bit, especially in the beginning. And so if you're going to do those practices, the movement-based practices, just wait a little while after finishing this set before starting them, if possible.
We have another question. In the closing movement, do we need the first bit, or can we go straight to the hands over the belly? What function does the hands going down have?
There's a lot of functions around this shape. Some of it is this softening open, this lengthening through. We're creating openness in the chest, the upper back, the tops of the shoulders. We're opening down here. We're allowing the neck to release. In the same way that if I was to stand next to you and help your arm soften open this way, this is creating this neutral open posture. And the hands also help to guide this movement down through the body, this release of the chest and shoulders. I'm not pulling down, I'm letting everything go. My head falls up, my chest sinks down, the breath settles down. So you can settle your hands against your belly, that's fine. But this motion also does disentangle some of the stuff that may accumulate from all of these practices that we're doing at any time. This closing movement is a wonderful practice.
And then for your awareness, someone with the username RY says, sorry, John, have to go. We'll try to be back Wednesday for the whole thing.
Oh, RY. Is that a Ray or is that somebody else?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Maybe Ray.
Thank you for coming, whoever you are. And then let's go ahead and release down. Softening open on the ribs. Gentle, comfortable circles. You can use your fingertips. You can use the knuckles if that's easier for you. But easing open this whole line. Releasing under the ribs to the outside. All the way around the breast if that is comfortable for you. The warmth and softness from your hands soaking in. And then beneath your arm, same thing. Easing open, releasing. Both directions. And then top of the shoulder, similarly. This is one of those areas that people often carry a lot of tension, and we have the habit of pushing and pulling hard into this area, but that is not what we're looking for this time. And you can use your other hand if this is a little bit easier for you. But warming, gently releasing all of this tissue up here. Soothing it open. Moving down the arm. You can release the shoulder joint, the upper arm, all the way to the elbow, finding any spaces that for you might be extra tight.
And going as slow as necessary.
And going as slowly as necessary for you to feel easy and open. Sometimes that can be like this, especially in an area that feels delicate or has had an injury before. If it's cold and you want to warm it up, you can warm it up like this. But you do want to have this sense of gentleness and intention penetrating into the body, into the tissues. That warmth and the warmth of your intention soaks in, and it relieves those delicate tissues beneath the skin, that fascial line. It soaks into the empty spaces through and around the tissues, allows everything to open in a way that pushing on it really hard can't do. And then just at the crook of the elbow. And then a bit below that, just a few inches below, into this area that tends to cultivate tension for people that work with their hands all day long. Holding it in a position you can see it a bit more easily. You can use your palm as well if you prefer. I'll often use the side of my hand, but the contact is gentle, nourishing. And then the inside of the elbow. Center of the wrist. Looks like it's just the three of us again in the room. These secret people moving in and out. If it was Ray, Chris, that would be really nice. Ray is one of the disciples. He teaches at the school and is a really wonderful guy. Good person to ask questions to and to have as part of the community. Gently easing open the tissues. Softening open this line on the side of the wrist. Warming and opening the base of the thumb. Spicy.
Mm-hmm.
I made Melanie a delicious feast earlier because she was working. She didn't eat it until now. And it's very spicy.
Very
apparently.
spicy. I need milk. I'll make you more veggie piles later. You're so kind.
We are veggie people. Delicious veggies. You don't have to keep eating it.
I thought maybe it was just bread, no jalapeno, and it would help with the spice.
Oh, the jalapeno, yeah.
There's a little jalapeno.
There, it's in there.
Snuck in there.
It is in there. Easing open the tissues. If there is a center to the tension in your shoulder, there's a wonderful point up here that if when you find it, you think, oh, that's it, that's the center of everything, then just spend some time gently circling, warming and opening that point. Make it comfortable. Making friends with your body. That looks different than trying to force change. Easing open this whole line of your forearm. Remember that the release direction of the movement is releasing outward toward the fingertips. So all the way from up here in the shoulder, everything that we're doing is allowing things to release outward. Having that quiet intention can make it a bit easier for things to let go. So there's warmth and softness soaking into the tissues as that fascial layer melts beneath your fingers. But also as it releases lengthwise, softening your whole arm long. Inside of your arm. The inner and the outer gates. Gentle circles. Allowing the tissue that's often condensed and compressed in your wrist to soften open. through warm and loving touch. Take your time. Keep your arm and your hands released. Should feel nice. Softening that area at the base of the thumb, where pain often likes to accumulate. And then that spot in the center of the hand, next to the thumb. It's as though your mind is able to soak into the tissues. And where your mind soaks in, it's as though fluid accumulates and moves and warmth occurs. Allow that mind fluid to fill this point, to stimulate, to soak deep into the body, to allow healing for the tissues, which does not require heavy stimulation.
We have another question here.
Mm-hmm.
As we're doing the arm, my mind becomes aware my jaw needs to release more. Is it okay to stop the arm and go back to the tenser areas?
It's better to not. It's better to do the best that you can to release them first and then continue on. Otherwise, you never get to draw away from that point. Remember that no part of your body is ever only that one spot. Everything is associated with everything else. And so even when I'm doing acupuncture, very often in the clinic, people are surprised, oh, I have pain here. Why are you treating way over there? And very often because people don't understand how everything connects through the body and the mind. And so part of what we're doing is we are allowing this flowing outward, opening all of the channels, because the jaw tension is just one symptom of a whole body issue. And so there's nothing wrong with releasing the jaw, but as part of this set, we spend the time there that we need to spend the time, and then we move on, continuing and expanding downward. And then later on, after this set has done its work, you can go back to that point and release it again, as long as, once again, you descend down the body. Otherwise, you end up overstimulating and even irritating areas that are already tense and overworked. That's why you can do these kinds of things too much. This set is so gentle, it's very safe to do, but you do want to make sure that you let your body rest and heal and not overwork an already overstimulated area. a jaw is not just a jaw. It's your whole world. Or something like that. Warming and releasing. And again, if you happen to have more breast tissue than I do, and we all have breast tissue, you can spend time softening around here, doing breast massage, releasing and relieving tissue and glands that are possibly congested. You always want to make sure that you include your whole body during this process. But I will continue on softening the solar plexus. Again, this is one of those places like the jaw that can become hardened due to certain kinds of emotions collecting in the tissues. And they become habituated to gripping and holding. And you want your emotional spectrum to be as healing as your touch. So your hands are soft, your mind intent is soft. And that friendly intention, especially in these places, soak in, nourish, be loving, kind. Then moving a bit lower.
I notice this is really helping with my back tension.
Good. Yeah. And that quality that, because the front is associated with the back, if this softens some aspect of your tension, then that tension, which is over your whole body, starts to release. And so the other areas start to let go. Every area is associated with everything else. I encourage anybody who is listening to this, anyone in the sound, the range of my voice, to learn a bit about Chinese medicine and how everything relates to everything else. It is such a beautiful map and way of understanding the body and the mind. Easing open the body. Especially in these kinds of areas, soothing and releasing like a sigh. It's one of the reasons it's nice to practice in community, to be around people that make you smile, because it just makes it a little bit easier to be comfortable and to treat yourself well. Softening below the ribs, easing it open. Setting free your breath. Relaxing your belly if you've been contracting your abdomen for decades. It's okay to be shaped like a human, whatever that shape looks like. further softening the belly, allowing your breath to be natural and comfortable. You're not pushing and pulling on it. The way. If you see me shaking, it's not because I'm purposefully trying to shake my body. I'm just so loose and my chair is wiggly. And so as I move, the rest of me moves. And so if you find movement like that, it's okay, but don't copy me. Unless you also have a wiggly chair. Allowing this warmth and generous movement to soak into your belly and the line of your navel. And again, for those of you just joining us, if you are new to this set, please say something in the comment section and then I can add more instruction for you if you need it. So you don't have to jump into the deep end. Gentle circles around the navel. 36 out, and then 24 spiraling back in. The intent is on softening your belly, allowing your awareness to soak in, nourishing your internal organs, releasing your breath.
We have another question here. Is consciously making yourself move better than subconsciously holding yourself right?
I don't understand the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Is consciously making yourself move better than subconsciously holding yourself rigid? Sorry, Chris, thank you for clarifying. Like frozen.
Like frozen. Oh, I see what you mean. So if you're doing this and you're frozen and you're making a circle, you're saying, is it better to consciously wiggle? It is better to consciously, actively let go of that which is holding you frozen, but not to add anything. In this case, don't add a wiggle or a shake. Simply actively don't. That's the way that doing, non-doing. You're actively letting go of that which is holding you frozen as best that you can. And so if you feel that this movement is traveling and it gets trapped, it gets stuck. So rather than it allowing your body to move, it runs into a blockage. Use that like sonar, internal sonar, to notice, oh, there's a blockage there. And then you just gently place your awareness into this space and allow things to release. Don't obsess over the blockage. Just notice that movement can move there and try to release whatever it is that's holding it. And if you can't, that's fine. And it is better to continuously practice release and warming, bless you, rather than to consciously, constantly try to move, because that is just added tension. That is my recommendation, at least in this particular set. And then you can also soften that inguinal line here, just on the inside of this tight band of tissue that might be there. warming and softening the space, emphasizing movement downward. Is this part of the area that's been releasing for you during this set?
Yeah.
We've been getting lots of notes from people who have been practicing this with us for the last few weeks, because this is this 21? So 3 weeks of this practice, not counting the day that I wasn't here. We've been getting notes from people who have been making great strides in their ability to relax and their body to change. Their minds are changing, their emotions are releasing. And so it's really wonderful to hear. And Melanie is no different. Neither am I. It feels great to me too. So now I'm going to turn around after I sip my tea. And sliding around your waist. I put my palms on my back. If that's uncomfortable for any reason, you can place the backs of your hands there and gently working up and down, emphasizing the downward direction, warming and softening your lower back. Again, you're not trying to pound it open. You're trying to melt that steel. Not through heat necessarily, although it may grow warm, but instead through gentle, loving touch, through being easy and comfortable. Easing open the side of your glute. I'm doing 36 in both directions. You can do more if this is an area that grips on you. If you've had hip damage or hip replacement, you can also spend time warming and nourishing this point here, where you can feel the hip joint come out. You can also spend time relieving that if that's very helpful for you. Otherwise, we'll move right down to the center of the thigh here. In both directions, gently allowing the space to open, warming and nourishing. Finding a way to move that helps disentangle and disinhibit. And the outside of the knees, just above the knee. can soften that point with your fingertips. I like to use my palms circling in the area. This is just on the outside of the leg, above the kneecap, at the base of the quadricep muscle. And then we'll do the same thing to a point above the kneecap on the inside of the knee, in here. So you can see this line. Again, I like to use my palms. You can use any point of your body that feels comfortable for that. And I'll do this because we can also use our fingers as we're doing this point to drape over the side and touch this space on the inside of the knee that sometimes can also use a bit of work. Gentle circles, you can slide your hands a little bit if that makes the warmth that you enjoy. But you're not trying to press deep, you're trying to soften that fascial layer that wraps around the knee. Keeping your shoulders soft, your hands relaxed.
I have another question here. Broke my hip 20 years ago. I have a pin in it. Should I put a lot of time into healing this area? Oh, and then correction, pelvis, not hip, I think.
Probably at this point, just make it part of your healing mix. Don't focus on it too much, but rather emphasize nourishing and healing. Often that kind of healing process requires a lot of resources, and that can be something that is very depleting. And so if you're already depleted and then you come into life, and for those people that don't nourish themselves very well, they just become more depleted. And so their bodies never quite have the ability to heal. And everybody's a little bit different in that, of course. This, by the way, is that space just behind the knee. So you can, of course, emphasize releasing any points that you can tell are holding as a result of that trauma and that damage, softening around them in general, but don't overemphasize it any more than overemphasizing the jaw. The whole body is related. And then stomach 36. Just in the center of that musculature, alongside the shin bone, at the top and the belly of that point. Warming and nourishing. Circling in both directions. And then gallbladder 34, a little higher and further out than that last point. For me, after years of knee damage, I could feel layers of wrapping tissue on the inside that made my knee tight from things being twisted and injured. And so I still, as I do this practice, make sure that I emphasize to all of that tissue, because the fascial system is a protective system in part, and it doubles up and gets layered and it pulls tight and it gets twisted at strange angles, like clothing pulled at a weird angle. And if it was clothing, I'd have to straighten it a bit. But in this case, it's living tissue. You can soften and warm it and nourish it. It responds to your emotions. It responds to your diet and your rest. And so we nourish it back into place, not force it. You can do the same on the inside, the top of the shin bone, spleen 9. Sitting or lying, whatever way is comfortable. I just position myself to make it easier for the camera to see the points. But you want to move and sit or lie in such a way that your body, these areas that you're working on, feel content to release, whatever that looks like for you. Warm, comfortable circles. Both directions, but emphasizing the part of movement that allows things to release outward and downward. Making certain that your back is soft. If you can, just flexing from the hips slightly. If that's uncomfortable, or you find yourself rolling over and doing things that will just make your back tighter, then maybe sit differently in a chair. You can put your foot up on a chair. You could do one leg at a time if that's easier for you. For some people, perhaps they lay on their back and put their feet up on the wall. Maybe that's easier for them. Raking your fingers up from just below the knee to above the knee. Sinking in just below the level of the skin. That fascial layer that might get bunched up from knee damage. Just allowing everything to release and be relieved. And then allowing your thumbs to dip into the center of the calf at the top of the V of the calf, the bifurcation of the gastrocnemius.
My goodness.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Softening the calf, pressing in just deeply enough so that it begins to stimulate a release, as with all of these. You can press a bit deeper for this one than perhaps with the others, because we're releasing layers of tissue. This is a place where muscles that move in different ways layer on top of each other. But you're still being gentle. You're still easing rather than forcing. Keep your hands soft. Make gentle circles. Doing your best to be kind. And just as a reminder, you don't have to sit like this if it's not comfortable. Easing any tissue that is accumulated around the Achilles, warming it a bit, as well as the musculature next to the shin bone. Being kind and opening the lower leg. And then when you're finished working this point, this distance across the fingers, the knuckles of the hand, that distance above the inside high point of your ankle. Just at the line where the bone and the soft tissue meet on the inside, you might find a little divot there or a sore spot where all of these various tissues cross. And very gently circulating on that point if you'd like. Releasing and easing that point of tissue accumulation. You can use your fingers. You can use your palm. I also like to circulate this whole area around that point, including the space below the ankle, but move in a way that helps you feel most comfortable and relaxed. Only you will know how you're feeling in this moment. And especially for those who menstruate, this area might feel very tender. And so you can spend a little extra time softening that open, easing the body, especially certain times of the month. And then that space between the tendons on the foot, warming the bottom of the foot, the side of the foot. You can make gentle circles and stimulate these points if that feels better for you. I like to warm and rub them. Not sinking in deep, not trying to push very hard, just stimulating. You can relieve around the toes, allow things to move around comfortably. Should feel nice, especially if you like a good foot massage. You can get in here and create movement. And then our feet often take a lot of abuse, and so we want to emphasize a release.
I have a question here about the foot. If the skin on the foot is thick, do you use more pressure?
It depends on the kind of skin. If you have a foot like a hoof, then perhaps a bit more pressure. But more than likely, most people just have a normal level of thickening of callus on their feet. And so you want to use just enough pressure to sink below the level of the callus, below the level of the skin, but not too deep, and just be very gentle. And you might have to change the kind of pressure that you get, because if you have a really hard callus in an area and you push on that callus, there may be no movement, or it disperses the movement across the area. So perhaps you need to use a different kind of movement on that area. But again, the goal here is not to hyperstimulate a point, but in the same way that with that hard tissue, you want to soften that tissue. You can use some castor oil or something like this. Gentle softening. People tend instead to want to cut away or scrape their feet or to use harsh abrasives on themselves because we have this obsession and this habit with purging and destroying ourselves as hard as we can. We're constantly always pushing ourselves as hard as we can. And what we want instead is to nourish, to be gentle and loving, to soften the tissue rather than to cut it away, to relate to the body rather than to try to force change. And it's a very different way of healing. And so please, however your body is, be gentle. That is my request. Find a way to warm and nourish these points.
He says, so you're not a fan of spooning the feet, LOL.
Spooning the feet?
Sounds funny.
I don't know what that means.
Maybe taking a spoon and whacking your foot or something.
Whacking your feet with a spoon is Mel's suggestion. She tells everybody to whack their feet with spoons.
No.
Or maybe scrape your feet with a spoon, maybe? Well, neither of those things. No spoons on feet. Unless you're spooning the way that like people spoon when they cuddle and you have one foot next to the other. Yeah.
Yeah, scraping it with a metal spoon.
Definitely not. Gosh, please be gentle. And that's part of that as well, is again, it very rarely solves a problem. It just cuts away the symptom for a time and makes the body go through more trauma. Occasionally that kind of thing I think is useful. But when it becomes that as the method of healing instead of learning to understand why our bodies are producing pain or tension or these things, it's not about treating that localized tension. It's not just about relieving that localized pain. It's about understanding what's going on. Something like a callus or a painful spot or a localized red spot is as much just a local red flag that your body's waving saying, hey, there's something going on. And so what we do is we cut down the flag and we shoot the part of the body that's trying to tell us there's something, and we numb it so we can't feel the call for help anymore. And we go, that's better. I've literally had somebody in my life and my family that I won't name online who they got a really nice car that they were nervous about driving. And this is true. At one point, warning lights came on, telling about that there was problems in the car. And the way they dealt with it, instead of fixing the car, is they took black tape and they put it over the dashboard so they couldn't see the warning lights anymore. It didn't help the car or them when they got stuck on the side of the road. And we do that constantly with our health. Learn how instead to understand and treat the problem. And often the problem is a lack of love, a lack of presence and gentleness, a lack of willingness to pay attention and to be kind.
That's so interesting. I wonder if it's the ignorance is bliss idea or...
I don't know. This is a university educated person.
Or object permanency. If I don't see it,
If I don't see it, it's not there. Yeah, if I numb it and it's fine. Because the problem was the light. The problem is the red flag our body waves, not the systemic issue that this messenger is shooting the messenger. The messenger comes and say, hey, there's a thing here. And so you get rid of the messenger and the problem has gone away somehow. But I mean, we don't just do that in our bodies. We do it in our relationships. We do it in our government. We do it with everything. It's not just the car. And so we want to free ourselves of that particular habit as much as we can. This is my recommendation. Okay. Still some tea left. Similar to the sweeps that we made on our arms, very gently folding from the hips, circulating down the outside and back of the legs, up the inside and front. Only move as far as feels comfortable. Avoid gripping the legs, trying to pull you down. Instead, lengthen the legs with no tension. Remember that tension shortens us. So that our spine is lengthening this way, and our hands travel downward. Only as far as feels comfortable. Be very gentle. If you're sitting on the ground, it may help to sit on a bolster to have your hips higher than the ground. Will help the hips to relax, the lower back to soften more easily. Also circulating the toes. Knees and the hips release. Make sure that your toes are turning and your wrists, not your wrists, your ankles are rotating. Rotating all the way as well up where you're sitting. Getting some warmth and activity moving, but not trying to wear yourself out. This isn't an exercise in that sense. Both directions. Softening your spine a bit. Turning your waist. Gosh, lots of fog outside. It's beautiful. And just a moment of comfortable sitting. If you would like to lie flat, to allow your body to release, that you certainly can. Taking your time. I'll just stay sitting for a moment. Your whole body is comfortable and easy. Since we are running a bit behind today, if you have questions, you're certainly welcome to ask.
We have another question here. I notice I always purse / squeeze / contract my lips. Any specific things that will help stop this?
Specific things about the face? Well, I think a lot of it is in general. Humans, we seem to primarily express ourselves through our hands, our face, our mouth, our tongue. And so it's a very common place for tension to accumulate and show. And the important thing to do is to not force yourself to be still. Don't force yourself to not move your mouth, because that's just adding more tension onto the tension. The pursing of your lips or your tightening of your jaw, all of these things are just symptoms of internal tension. And so they're manifesting on the outside. And so there's nothing wrong necessarily with those things. They cause localized pain. You do want to learn to release them. So you can, if you notice tension showing up on your lips and you're holding your face or you're frowning or something, it is certainly okay to soften your face, to soften your mouth, to release your jaw. That is a wonderful thing to do, but also recognize that again is just a flag coming up of your nervous system, of your whole body saying, hey, something's happening. Perhaps your mind thinks it's being attacked by a tiger. Your heart is racing, you're holding your breath. So finding the inner cause of what is manifesting on the outside is certainly the thing to do. Sometimes it is just a habit. I just have a habit of holding my left hand in a fist for some reason, let's say. And it came because I used to work at a place where I had to hold a pencil for 12 hours a day. I don't know. And so now I still habitually hold the pencil even though I don't have a pencil. And so I do need to break that habit, and just being consciously aware of letting go throughout the day. That's a thing. But if I'm gripping because my whole body is tight and my mind is racing and I'm holding my breath and my heart is pounding and my emotions are shooting all over the place, even though nothing is happening, then there's a deeper thing that has to be treated. And this is just a small symptom. And it can certainly relax my mouth. It can certainly relax my fist. And there's nothing wrong with relaxation, but you do want to make sure that you are not forcing open your hand or forcing open your mouth, because that's just adding more tension. Just continually get better at relaxing. And that's the way. This is the way. Do you have a recommendation? People love to hear from the Mel.
Oh. No, the pressure is on.
The pressure is on. Mel is more popular than I am.
That's not true. No, I think you answered it really well.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, I used to have tics, certain facial movements that became habits. Like I would notice somebody else blink one eye really hard, and I thought it was interesting, and I emulated it. And then before I knew it, I had created like a neural pathway.
A new habit.
A new habit. And I can't really remember how I eventually broke it, but I think it was just what you described of like just gently softening and just becoming more aware as it was happening.
It's amazing how that does occur. Yeah. Any other questions? It's only Chris.
Yeah, lots of good questions, Chris.
We appreciate it. Chris, I chased everyone away by missing one class.
Let's see. He says, does softening all the wee bits not lead to the nervous system slowing down anyway?
I think it can help. Yeah. It's one way of getting to the systemic change, is changing one finger at a time. And you just want to make sure that you're not ignoring the systemic issue at the same time. You can treat both at the same time. And in fact, you should always consider your whole system, not ignore any particular part for the sake of the wee bits.
I love that.
The wee bits.
The wee bits.
Chris, you're creating a stereotype for us. Well, it looks like that's about it. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Chris, for all the good questions. If it wasn't for you, there'd be no interaction at all.
He says, love the class, LOL. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Yes. Enjoy your practice.